I'm your host, David Mercer. Welcome to Tech Dialogues. Today we're speaking with Jon Isley, who's a subject matter expert in carbon capture and sequestration at Fluor Corporation. Welcome, Jon. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Dave. It's good to be here.
Excellent. So, Jon, you've spent about 28 years of your career with Fluor Corporation. Can you tell us a little bit about those experiences?
Certainly. I started with Fluor in Southern California in 1994, and I started in oil and gas, but I found my way to Canada, and starting in 97, I did some projects and then permanently transitioned in 2005, working on many of the heavy oil projects in Western Canada.
So now let's pivot the conversation a little bit to the topic at hand, which is CCUS. Where do you see CCS going in the next 5 years?
On the interim goal to 2030, we see quite a role in carbon capture. There are many industries out there that can be retrofit. The power industry, oil and gas industry, they can be fairly easily retrofit with the carbon capture infrastructure. The point sources are concentrated sources of carbon dioxide. The technologies exist. They are economically challenged, but nonetheless, once certain hurdles are met, and if society decides and governments decide and put those regulations into place to get over those hurdles, we can do it, and we can do it, and we can get started doing it today.
So when we think about carbon capture, we want to talk about capturing that carbon dioxide from the stack gases, and we call that post-combustion capture. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So in terms of Fluor and the technology that Fluor offers to capture that post-combustion CO2, can you tell me a little bit about that technology?
Fluor has a technology called Econamine FG+. Okay. We call it EFG+ for short. Econamine is a solvent that Fluor acquired from Dow in the 1990s. It's been applied on over 30 plants since that time, and it is a amine-based solvent technology that Fluor designs process packages around and to capture a low pressure source from flue gas, captures that CO2, concentrates it, dehydrates it, and compresses it up to pipeline for sequestration or other uses. Mm-hmm. And it can concentrate the CO2 up to 99.9% and into a dense or a supercritical state.
So Jon, we talked a little bit about Fluor's technology being EFG+. Can you give me a couple of examples on how Fluor differentiated ourselves by offering that technology to industry?
Fluor has differentiated ourselves especially with our ability to manage degradation of solvent in the post-combustion capture process. We have a solvent maintenance system which minimizes solvent loss, and we have minimized the cost of solvent over a duration of time, which improves reliability, improves the availability of the carbon capture process, and offers best-in-class performance.
So in relation to the CCS industry, we've seen a lot of interest in these last 3 years, Jon. We've seen a lot of new developers and new entrants bring their technology in. Can you tell me one or two key challenges that these new technology entrants are going to face in trying to bring that technology to commercialization?
Yes, bringing new technology, especially in something like carbon capture, is a real challenge. The developers might find they solve one problem in the lab, but as they scale up, there's many challenges. It goes from the chemistry up to equipment challenges, and then long-term operational challenges. So typically I would say anything less than 10 years is hopeful. And so when we look at the year 2030, which is only 8 years from now, the idea of bringing on a new technology into full-scale deployment before then is very, very challenging.
Excellent. Thanks, Jon. I appreciate you sharing that. One last thing I'd like to ask you as we pivot the conversation one more time is the oil sands pathways to net zero. 6 key companies, 95% of the oil sands production in Western Canada. Are they coming together to facilitate final investment decision on CCS projects in your view?
The Pathways to Net Zero, I think, is a key initiative to the Western Canadian oil sands in particular is a critical resource, a huge part of the Canadian economy. And the products they make, it's not just transportation fuel, it's chemicals, whether it's plastics to fertilizers. So having a carbon capture solution helps make that industry sustainable. And the Alliance coordinates the key infrastructure which is needed. It's hardly different than a highway that we need to move people around. It's just a key piece of the infrastructure puzzle, whether that's the CO2 pipelines, and then working with those clients to build additional capture infrastructure to feed those pipelines.
Great. Thanks very much, Jon. I really appreciate what you shared with us here today. It's obvious you have a high degree of expertise in CCS. We're grateful to have you as a member of our team here at Fluor Canada. And once again, thank you for today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
To conclude, thank you for tuning in to Tech Dialogues. If you enjoy what you've heard, stay tuned. We're going to be talking to more subject matter experts in the weeks ahead.